All right, hello, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. I am Dr. Rao, and I have master's candidate Diana Rejon with me this morning, and we are going to present on social emotional learning in early childhood special education. So thank you so much for taking time out of your Saturday morning to come to our webinar and invest in your own professional development to learn more skills in social emotional learning with younger children. So here's what we're going to cover. We're going to open up talking about some of the existing research that's out there. And then we'll talk specifically about the social and emotional needs for students in early childhood, and then how to modify SEL curricula so that it's accessible for students in special education. And then Diana has some really great examples and activities to share with you. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask in the chat. And then when we get to like the midpoint, we'll open it up for questions. We'll check the chat and see if there's any questions in there, or you can go ahead and ask out loud during the Q&A time. And then we'll also allow time at the end for questions. So otherwise, please remain muted unless it is the question and answer time. And then you can just go ahead and unmute yourself. And I'm going to share some links and documents in the chat. And let me go ahead and do that right now. I'm going to share the slides so you can access this presentation and everything that's in it. And I'll try to remember to share that a couple of more times as we go on for any new people that show up in a little bit later. Okay. All right, so just a little bit about what the research shows. The research shows that social emotional learning programs work, that they did a meta-analysis of 213 SEL programs. And what these researchers found, it was Durlak et al., and this was back in 2011, they found that it not only increased academic performance. So even though there's not an academic focus in SEL programs, learning these social emotional competencies have been shown to increase academic performance. And they also reduce aggression and emotional distress and increase helping behaviors and positive attitudes toward both school and self. So that's the great thing, is that these SEL programs are showing themselves to be effective and they are working. Now, I want to talk about neuroscience for a moment, and particularly how that relates to early childhood and social emotional learning. So what we know from neuroscience is that learning is optimal before the age of 6. We continue learning our entire lives into our senior years and old age, but the brain has the most plasticity before the age of 6, and especially even the most in the first 3 years. And that means that the brain cells and pathways are the most flexible during those years. And they really alter their structure in response to environmental stimulus. And the neural circuits connected with the motion regulation interact very closely with attention, working memory, impulse control, and overall cognition. And that ties back to perhaps why SEL programs have been shown to increase academic performance, because the neural pathways that they are targeting are so closely connected to attention, working memory, and overall cognition. Social and emotional experiences really play a critical role in this stage of brain development. In particular, nurturing relationships with parents, between parent and child, teacher and child, caregiver and child, are essential to brain development at this stage, at early childhood. And it comes from emotional competence, emerges from empathic interactions with caregivers and co-regulation. So co-regulation means that the teacher, parent, caregiver has good emotion regulation themselves and can stay regulated even in the midst of the emotional chaos that can come from early childhood. So step number one, the most important step to effective social emotional learning at this age is to make sure that you as the teacher are regulated, to make sure that you are in a place of peace, you are cool, calm, and collected, and you can stay that way even when your students are all over the place emotionally. That is co-regulation. That means that even if you do nothing but stay regulated yourself, that alone can be very effective. That is co-regulation. Your regulation helps your students regulate themselves. Of course, that's not all that you need to do. It's more complex than that. You also want to be teaching coping skills, but the number one step is to keep yourself regulated. And not be punishing students for their emotional dysregulation that is actually perfectly appropriate for their stage of development. Punishment or shame or kind of a punitive approach shuts the brain down to learning. So that's not helping students learn. They might learn to withdraw and retreat out of fear, but they're not going to be learning social emotional competencies. They're not going to be learning to regulate and learning better coping skills. And so you being regulated and being able to have empathy are two of the best things that you can do as you are looking at helping your students develop social emotional skills. All right, so I'm going to hand it over to Diana for the next part.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So the existing research in social emotional learning for little ones, and especially the first 5 years, shows that children's ability to self-regulate and restrain from certain behaviors is processed in the first 30 months of age. And children under age 5 learn to self-regulate feelings and emotions on a daily basis, especially since new situations are arising daily. And this can be with friends, in the classroom, with teachers. There's new things happening daily for them, and they're learning to control their emotions. The frequency of physical aggression actually increases and peaks at 36 months, with a gradual decrease afterwards. And this statistic right here is actually for all children, whether they are typically developing or they have disabilities. So there is an aggression peak at 36 months of age. Okay. In children with ASD, while most typically developing children outgrow the aggression stage, a high number of children with ASD do not. As many as 1 in 4 children with ASD display aggressive behaviors such as property destruction, hitting others, and temper tantrums. These continue to form challenging behaviors, whether they're self-injurious, aggression towards oneself, or physical aggression towards others. They can carry negative implications in the long run. And children with ASD display aggressive behaviors more commonly than children without ASD. Okay, so we know that children in early childhood, especially with disabilities, they need they have social and emotional needs. And these young students are learning the names of their emotions, how to self-regulate, and that social and emotional learning is crucial in the early years, especially with the kiddos that are nonverbal, that don't have the ability to state their wants and needs. So young students with disabilities who cannot communicate functionally are more likely to demonstrate aggression. In these students with ASD, aggression is strongly associated with increased functional impairments. So this is the difficulty or inability to communicate verbally or non-verbally. And they need a significant amount of assistance with activities of daily living and with intensive medical interventions. Okay, so our kiddos in early childhood needing social emotional learning, these are many of the things that they're learning. So self-soothing, how to self-soothe, how to recognize their own feelings, taking turns with friends, and responding to a peer request, asking for help, recognizing their own wrongdoing, attending to a task, showing affection, and empathizing with others. There is so much to SEL in young students that they're learning that this is just a few of the skills that they're learning in preschool and in the first 5 years. Okay. So how to modify SEL curricula for accessibility. In my classroom, these are some of the strategies that I use that I have found help the most. And so for students with moderate to severe disabilities, it's crucial that we modify the SEL curricula for ease of understanding. Some of these examples include visual cues of expected behavior, visual classroom rules, large pictures especially for English learners, and picture books. And in a literature review conducted by MacLeod, out of 29 different practices for SEL, 4 interventions were rated as essential by 3 experts and useful by 1. This was pre-correction, supportive listening, rules, and visual cues. Let's go to the next. So see, these are some examples of visual cues of expectations, which can be cut out and then laminated and put on key rings. So the first one is quiet hands, feet down, showing them what quiet looks like. And then we model with our own hand movements or finger movements. Sitting, show me sitting, sitting at table, give me space, face mask. This is a new one for this year. This was a new one for this year. We had to create this one. And actually what I do is I take a picture of the actual student wearing a mask, make it small, put it in a key ring. And when they're taking it off, I show them, put mask on. And then they see a picture of themselves wearing the mask, and it helps them to understand what we're asking them to do. Keeping hands to self. And these are just the ones to the right here. The sitting down is very popular. Sitting in a chair, show me walking feet, and calm body. Those are some of the most used ones in our room. Okay, we can go to the next one. And then the picture to the right is the key ring and how they're laminated and we carry them around. These are our must-haves either on our lanyard or pockets or in our apron. And they can be cut out and placed on a metal ring and carried throughout. Okay, this is another visual cue of behavior expectations. This is a current student of mine. At the beginning of school year, he would not remain at circle time. He would take his mask off. He would leave. Oh, this, you would never know by looking at this picture that this is a student with a lot of energy, constantly jumping and fidgeting, and he needs to be on the move. He actually injured his arm while in the playground outside, running against a concrete wall. He was playing, he would touch the wall, he would come down. He actually instead of touching the wall, he put his elbow first He's very high. He was bouncing off the walls. Yeah. So with this picture here, he has his mask on, he's sitting. So when he's not following these expectations, we show him the picture, show me, and we say, show me sitting, or if it's wear a mask, we say wear a mask, wear your put on mask, or calm body, or sit in chair. And it works for him. These are visual classroom rules. And what I do with these, they're on large 8 by 11 inch paper. They're laminated and they're displayed on the board in the front of the board where we sit at circle time. So they're there all the time. So they see them while we're at circle time or during story time. And we review them in the beginning of the school year and throughout the year as new students join us. And they're followed by hand or finger movements and while we perform the rules. So for quiet voice, we put and then we ask them to repeat the movement, the students, so that they're also engaging in the rule. For listening ears, for calm hands, eyes on teacher, and for calm body, we do this. And they, when I say show me calm body, then they do this as well. And for walking feet, I do this, and they know, okay, teacher needs me to slow down and walk in the classroom. Does anyone have any questions about these?
All right, we'll keep going then, and we'll open up to more questions at the end if you have anything.
I think I see a hand.
What's that?
I think I see a hand.
Oh, if you have a question, go ahead and just unmute and you can ask. Oh, hey, Hannah, were you raising your hand? Did you have a question?
I do. So how do you know when to use these cards? Because I'm wondering for students who are more verbal, who can or have higher comprehension of these things, if you have students at different levels, for some of them, would it make them feel kind of like, would it be kind of like demeaning, or like they feel like OMG, like not OMG, but like, you know what I mean?
I think I know what you're asking. And for my particular students this year, because they're still 3 and 4, the other students tend to not really be looking at what our para is doing, or if we're holding up the card. It's very quick. We show it up very quickly and then we put it down. But at this age, I don't find that it is demeaning at this age. And for the kiddos that are more verbal or that have language, I don't find that I need to use it as much because their level of functioning is a little higher.
Okay,
and they tend to follow the rules a little better.
that makes sense. Thank you for answering my question.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that's a great question, Hannah. Thanks for that. I think, would you say, Diana, that use of visuals in early childhood are just so common, and really even a highly verbal 3-year-old, I think they all benefit. Do you agree with that?
I do. And the visuals in early childhood, because this is their first, typically it's their first classroom, sometimes students enter or attend the Infant Learning Center. There's the Tracy Infant Center. There's for 2-year-olds. And when they haven't been exposed to a program, and then there's a lot of play in the early centers. So when they come into preschool, we are teaching them different skills to get them ready for K through 5th and up. They're not expected to sit down for longer than 5 minutes. And so by using these visuals, we're teaching them the basics, like we're sitting, we're attending. This is how we sit next to a peer with our calm hands. And they're wanting to get up because they see toys or they see areas where oh, I could just go there. But for now, we're teaching them, okay, this is the expectation, and the visuals are absolutely necessary. I find at this age. With the verbal kiddos, that like, for example, I had a class 2 years ago that at least half of 10 kiddos, so 5 of them were verbal, verbal enough to request their needs and understand, and we could understand them. They needed academic support, but they didn't have the behaviors of leaving or, hitting peers. I wasn't finding those yet. Mm-hmm.
I love it. Sounds like you really honor where they're at developmentally while helping them prepare for the next step and learn some new, learn those learning to learn skills that they're going to need going forward.
Yes, that's what we call them, the learning to learn skills.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of what we're talking about today really can be applied beyond early childhood, because our students still need visuals, and you'll see a lot of PEX cards, a lot of these visuals that Diana's sharing, you'll see them in older classrooms. And I think at that point, that's really when differentiation comes into play, because not all students in, let's say, a mild moderate class, K through 3 or 4 through 6 are going to need this level of visuals, but it's not going to hurt. And the kids who don't need them can kind of just ignore them and get the instruction auditorily. But when they're there for the kids that need them, that can be really crucial to them understanding expectations. So I really appreciate a lot of the strategies that are used in early childhood, because just because a child turns 5 and goes into kindergarten, some of their early childhood needs don't go away. They still really need a lot of this support. So I think that this can be applied, but modified as needed in the older grades.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, definitely. Any other questions before we move on? All right. Okay, so Diana's about to talk about, share an example of what she does in her classroom, using a book as a theme. And so before she goes into that, I want to talk about there's actually a term for this when you use reading materials to teach SEL. It is called bibliotherapy, and it is the use of reading materials to expand an individual's level of self-understanding and understanding of others' perceptions, which is SEL, even before it was called SEL. And this was actually, this term was coined back in 1916. So it's been around for a long time. And it encompasses the idea that using stories can build a strong foundation of social emotional learning that will positively influence children's behavior. Good stories hold the power to change how we think and how we feel. And so by helping children change the way they think and feel, the behavior change is self-initiated from the inside out. And that's in theory. Maybe with some of our students, especially in special education, it's going to take more than a good book, of course, but good books are just so powerful. And so here is a list. This is from CSUF, and this is a list of picture books that have been identified that are really good at teaching social emotional learning. So I will, once Diana starts talking, I'm going to share the link to these slides again so that you can, if some of you joined after I already shared the link, I'll share it again, and then you can have access to this list, which is really great.
Okay. So in early childhood, in my preschool class, I love books and I do love story time. And I tend to look for books that teach SEL, and I think many books in preschool do this, but this is a particular one that I really enjoy, and it's called Can I Play Too by Mo Willems. And the lesson plan social skill that it teaches is joining in and inviting others to play and relationship skills. It's about Elephant and Piggy starting to play catch when Snake wants to join in to play. And after a few struggles, they find a way for Snake to participate. The objective is helping the students know how to invite other kids to play with them and accommodate for their needs. So after we read the book a couple of times, which I don't know what it is about this book, but they seem to they're very drawn to it. They're focused on it. And of course, you have to turn into an actor for books sometimes. And this helps. And this book is very animated. It's the ball hits the snake and, boink, and the students, they're just like, well, what's happening? It's very repetitive sometimes, so that helps. So for the activity, after we've read the book, we make our own snake out of a sock, and these are the supplies that we use. We use a Sharpie marker, the sock, long twist ties or rubber bands, plastic eyes or buttons, and stuffing for the snake, and dry beans or rice can give it a little bit of a weight, just a little bit, so that you can actually toss the snake to a friend. Okay, next. And these are a couple of examples of how we extend the activity. So the hot potato game, for kiddos that have more understanding and they tend to be more mild to moderate in their disabilities, we can play the hot potato game with the snake, and with the music stopping, and then a student has to sit outside of the circle once they're out. And this allows students to know the feeling of being left out of a game and then asked to join back in. For kiddos that have more moderate to severe needs, the game can be modified between passing to another student. So just two students, and because they're still developing their gross motor skills, we have to help them, catching it, throwing it, and then catching it. But with an adult behind each student, we can help them by catching it. Okay. So with our kiddos that are not able to verbally ask other peers to play, we teach the sign play, which is this, or just tapping a peer to get their attention. Or if they're verbal, we can teach them and model how to say, do you want to play? And yes, let's see. Yeah, so there's several ways that we can encourage our students to request a peer's attention, but we have to, they're still learning. And so we have to teach them how to get their attention. And modeling is a great way. And we just, being there to help them and showing them is really what they need at this age still. Does anyone have any questions about the activity? Okay.
All right. And so Diana had a recording, right? Did you want to share that?
We have that.
Of the book. So I'm going to stop my share, and then that should allow you to share.
Okay. All right.
Perfect.
This is the book. We're going to play it.
Can I play too? By Mo Willems. P, let's play catch. Yes, I love playing catch with my friends. I will throw, I will catch. Excuse me, can I play too? You do not want to play with me? No, we do want to play with you. But we are playing catch with our arms. So, you do not have arms? I do not have arms? Ah! Hee hee ha ha, hee hee ha ha, hee hee. I know I do not have arms. I am a snake. You are a funny snake. But can a snake play catch? I do not know, but I can try. Cool! I will throw the ball. Try to catch it. Here comes the ball. Bonk. Sorry. It is okay. Let's try again. Okay, I will try again. Bonk. Now I will try. Bonk. This is not working. We need a new idea. Yes. Maybe we need more balls. More balls! More balls! Oh boy. Do we need even more balls? Maybe. Wait! We have tried, but I am a snake. A snake who cannot play catch. No. You are our friend. We will all play catch. How? She has an idea. Whee! I love playing catch with my friends. The end.
The idea part where the little light bulb goes on, it reminded me of a student that was learning to imitate, and I'm like, and so we're like thinking, like that's a new concept to them, coming up with ideas and thinking, right, for a minute. And I just remember he's like, he's still nonverbal, but he was thinking along with me. It was cute.
I love that. That's a really cute story, and that's fun. You can read aloud to them and show them the video and kind of show them that in multiple ways, which helps the information get into their brain in different ways. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Yeah. So any questions or anything that you guys do with your students that you would want to share? Any thoughts? All right. Well, we are finished a little early, so you can go ahead and get through, but don't leave yet. You can get on with your Saturday. But I do have a survey that I'm going to ask you to complete,